Okay, Matthew 24, starting in verse 1. And Yeshua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. And Yeshua said unto them, See you not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another, that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming, and the end of the world? And Yeshua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Messiah, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences, earthquakes in different places. All these are the beginnings of sorrow. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be all offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. Why did Yeshua give his disciples a prophecy about the end times? And what can we learn from it? In Matthew 24, Yeshua speaks of future events. Yeshua prophesies quite clearly the fall of the temple in Jerusalem in Matthew 24, verse 2. And that actually happened around AD 70. And with it came the end of the Jewish era. But he also prophesied the end of the world too. And we will be wise to learn from history. Someone once said that history is going somewhere. It is not meaningless. It is not random. It is not eternal. There will be a real end, just as there was a real beginning. And at the end of it, we will find Yeshua Messiah. History is, in a real sense, Yeshua's story. He made the world. He came to dwell in it. He will return at the end of history to wind it up. In John chapter 1, verse 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. The same was in the beginning with Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from Yahweh, whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lights every man that comes into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him. The world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them gave he power to become the sons of Yahweh, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of Elohim. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. We can learn from history. We live in the present. But why did Yeshua bother to tell us about the future? First, to warn us so we are not led astray by false prophets. There's always been a natural tendency for people to be attracted to by prophetic utterances about the future. In the late 19th century in America, there was an enthusiasm for such prophecies predicting the actual date of Messiah's second coming. One such prophet was the Adventist leader William Miller, born in 1782 and died in 1849. And it is in his movement that both the Jehovah's Witnesses and Seventh-day Adventists find their roots. Miller first predicted that Messiah would return on the 21st of March, 1842, but then revised the date to April 3rd, 1843, and you might have thought that the movement would have died, but it didn't. Rather, it continued to grow. Miller decided to recalculate his date for the second coming and soon publicized a new date, April 18th, 1844. When the Messiah did not show up on that date, there was again frustration and some followers left the Adventist ranks. Undeterred by these failures, Miller came up with a third date, till 22nd of October, 1844. And as doomsday approached, the Millerites began to prepare. One account notes that fields were left unharvested, shops were closed, people quit their jobs, paid their debts, and freely gave away their possessions with no thought of repayment. William Miller himself began peddling white ascension robes to the faithful, many of whom waited for the miraculous event in freshly dug graves. But as we all know, the second coming did not occur on the 22nd of October, 1844. Yeshua is eager to spare his followers the pain of the letdown that false prophets bring, and the real sense of loss that accompanies it. The second reason Yeshua gave this prophecy was to remind his congregation that he wants us to keep his mission in the forefront of our hearts and minds. Yeshua summed up the end times like this: "And the gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come." The primary goal of the church, the congregation, is to preach the message of the kingdom of Yahweh and not to be sidetracked by idle speculation. We need to keep our eye on the ball. Our primary goal is to preach the message of the kingdom of Yahweh. Kingdom is a government. The government of Yahweh is coming to take over this world's governments. You will no longer be able to bribe someone to get your way. There will no longer be judges who are activists. The third reason I believe Yeshua gave his prophecy was so that we will be ready for the events when they come. It's a bit like hazard lights on a motorway. They warn you of hazards up ahead before you reach it. Many of Yeshua's hearers were going to live through a cataclysmic event, the destruction of the temple and Jerusalem. It turned out to be a terrible siege that lasted 4 years. The city was defended with fanaticism. The Romans tried to starve the Jews out of it, and in the end, the inhabitants resorted to cannibalism. 1 million Jews were killed and almost 100,000 were taken into captivity. To get you an idea of what it was like, World War II lasted about 6 years. In the U.S., we had 416 to 418,000 people die or wounded. Russia had 8 to 24 million people die. The United Kingdom had 383,000 to 450,000. Yugoslavia, 446 to 1 million people died or was wounded. The 3rd century historian Eusebius records an interesting story. Some Jewish believers living in Jerusalem got out just before the siege and fled to Pella in Transjordan. Why? The reason Eusebius gives is that they left in response to an oracle given by revelation. They were simply heeding Yeshua's words. Yeshua gave us prophecy so that we will not be led astray by false prophets. And as we see cataclysmic events around us, it is easy to take your eye off the ball. And believe me, you will be seeing cataclysmic events. We are called to preach the gospel of the kingdom and not to be caught up in fairy tales. Everybody knows gospel means the good news. The kingdom is a government. We are to talk about the good news about Yahweh's government is going to be coming and taking over the world. Martin Luther is once reputed to have said, "If I knew Christ was coming tomorrow, I would still plant an apple tree." And finally, we need to be ready for the future. There will be an end to this world, not by our own doing, but when Yahweh's time is right. We don't need to worry. It is in Yahweh's hands. But the question is, will we be ready for it? Matthew 24, verse 36. But of that day and hour knows no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken, the other left. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill, one shall be taken, the other left. Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your master does come. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be you also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man comes. So how should we live in the end times? Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your master will come. Matthew 24:42. 3 times in the 19th century, this man called Miller prophesied that he would come at different days, 3 different dates. The 21st of March, April 3rd, April 18th, the 22nd of October. But as we all know, the second coming did not occur on the 22nd of October, 1844. In fact, if they had read the words of Yeshua from the Bible reading and believed them, they would not have been taken in by the Miller false prophecy. Having the advantage of time, I'm amazed that Hal Lindsey, the late great Planet Earth, ever made bestseller list in the late 70s. His predictions based on biblical prophecy can now be seen to be so far off. But predictions about end times, like horoscopes, are exceedingly popular. It is interesting that Yeshua refused to be drawn into speculation about the end times. So what are we to do about the end times? We are simply to be ready. For Yeshua, speaking about the second coming, said this in Matthew 24, verse 36. But of that day and hour knows no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. In Matthew 24, verse 42, watch therefore, for you know not what hour your master does come. It is the time we look forward to Messiah's second coming. But as I reflected on the meaning of his coming, I found myself drawn to three ideas of the gospel passage. Ideas I think are useful to reflect on. He is coming again. We remember Yeshua's coming to the earth 2,000 years ago, lived a sinner's life and was put to death, rose 3 days and 3 nights later. The first of these ideas is that we can look forward to his second coming in glory one day. And that is something special to look forward to. Yeshua, speaking about his second coming in a parallel passage in Mark's gospel, said in Mark 13:26, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in the clouds with great power and glory. And then shall he send his angels and shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from the utmost parts of the earth to the uttermost parts of heaven. Our great hope is that he will come again. He will usher in a new heaven and a new earth, where there will be no more tears, no more suffering, and Yeshua himself will be the light in our midst. Revelation 21, starting in verse 1, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from Yahweh out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of Yahweh is with men, and he will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and Yahweh himself shall be with them, and be their Elohim. And Yahweh shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. And he that sat upon the throne said, behold, I make all things new. And he said unto me, write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, it is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcomes shall inherit all things, and I will be his Elohim, and he shall be my son. In Revelation 22, starting in verse 1. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of Yahweh and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. And the leaves of the trees were for the healing of the nations. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of Yahweh and of the Lamb shall be in it. And his servants shall serve him, and they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun, for Yahweh Elohim gives them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. Perhaps we should live our lives all the year round, preparing for this event. Yahweh has work for us to do here on earth. The second idea that struck me from this passage is that Yahweh still has work for us to do. We are called to live our life in our communities, loving our neighbors as ourselves, and sharing the good news of Yahweh's kingdom and his Messiah with our neighbors. The good news of Yahweh's government. In our gospel reading today, Yeshua had this to say about the time in which we are living, leading up to the second coming. In Matthew 24, verse 42, "Watch therefore, for you know not what hour your master does come. But know this, that if the good man of the house had known in what watch the thief would come, he would have watched and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be you also ready, for in such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man comes." The thief is the devil, and he will come and try to steal your time. He will try to steal your loyalty, your faith, your peace, your happiness. He'll steal your health. He'll steal your freedom, your marriage even. You name it, the devil is out to get it. The only way to foil the devil is to be on guard and study the Bible. We are a deeply spiritual, inquisitive nation. How else can we account for the avid addiction to horoscopes in the national press and on television? I find that a lot of people would pore over the Bible fascinated by the prophecies of Revelation, but few of them would go further and commit their lives to Messiah. Yeshua wants us to focus on living the believer's life today, not dreaming of the future. He wanted us to be secure in the knowledge that he will come again. But he does not want us to be stargazing. At Yeshua's ascension in Acts 1, verse 10 and 11, the 11 disciples were left staring in the sky. 2 angels were sent to remind them that Yeshua has a mission for them. In Acts 1, verse 10, "And while they looked steadfast towards heaven, as he went up, behold, 2 men stood by them in white apparel, which also said, You men of Galilee, why stand you gazing up into heaven? This same Yeshua which is taken up from you into heaven shall also come in like manner as you have seen him go into heaven." Yahweh has a mission for us, to preach the good news of his kingdom to those around us, in the way we live and what we say. Let's not be found wanting when he returns. Watch, be alert. And the final thought that I would like to leave you with from our reading is that Yeshua wants us to be alert. He wants us to be well schooled in Scripture, that we cannot be taken in by false prophets. Just like the Millerites did about over 150 years ago. Challenge everything you hear from the pulpit. Ask yourself the question, does what is being preached coincide with Scripture? The gospel passage is a challenge to carefully mull over what we hear. Encourage us to know that one day Yeshua will return in glory. That Yeshua wants us to go on living as if he was coming tomorrow. And they say like they say in the military, red alert, if he comes tomorrow, would you be embarrassed by what he would find you doing? And Yeshua wants us to be on guard against being led astray by false prophets and teachers. Study his word. Be able to say, that doesn't sound right. Where in the Bible did you find that? Then a couple of days ago, I came across the Jeremiah, and I thought this would be a good ending to read. Jeremiah 6, verse 10. To whom shall I speak and give warning, that they may hear? Behold, the ears are uncircumcised, they cannot listen. Behold, the word of Yahweh is to them an object of scorn. They take no pleasure in it. Therefore I'm full of the wrath of Yahweh. I am weary of holding it in. Pour it out upon the children of the street and upon the gatherings of young men. Also both husband and wife shall be taken, the elderly and the very aged. Their houses shall be turned over to others, their fields and wives together. For I will stretch out my hand against the inhabitants of the land, declares Yahweh. For from the least to the greatest of them, everyone is greedy for unjust gain. And from prophet to priest, everyone deals falsely. They have healed the wound of my people lightly, saying, peace, peace, when there is no peace. Were they ashamed when they committed abominations? No, they were not ashamed at all. They did not know how to blush. Therefore they shall fall among those who fall. At the time that I punish them, they shall be overthrown, says Yahweh. So be ready. Study. Don't be deceived by people setting dates. But know that Yahweh is coming. Yahweh bless you with wisdom and eyes to see the truth.